By the power vested in me as Chancellor, I hereby constitute this Assembly as a legal congregation of the University of Pretoria. During this Assembly, degrees and diplomas with all the associated rights and privileges will be conferred and awarded to the candidates whose names appear in the program. We request all of you to join us in silent prayer or meditation to give thanks for the achievements of our students. Thank you. As Chancellor of the University of Pretoria, I extend a hearty word of welcome to you at the virtual graduation ceremony. I would like to welcome the Dean and Deputy Dean of the faculty, along with all persons to whom degrees and diplomas will be conferred and awarded. We also welcome families, friends and spouses to this virtual graduation ceremony. The spring ceremony is the fourth virtual graduation we have held since the COVID-19 pandemic broke out some 18 months ago. And although it is one of the smallest, it is a veritable powerhouse of human potential and talent. Qualifications that are being conferred over the 4 days belong to people who have shown courage, endurance, ingenuity, and personal mastery in the face of adversity. These people, yourselves, were thrown into the deep end of a higher education system that turned upside down by a global health emergency. The pandemic, despite the numerous challenges it so unceremoniously presented to you, did not get the better of you. Your presence at this ceremony, which is virtual by necessity, is testimony to that. On behalf of the University of Pretoria, I congratulate each and every one of you for what you have achieved under the most daunting of circumstances. Before we commence with the formal proceedings, I invite you to take a moment to think what this achievement means to you, and not only to you and your loved ones, but to your country and our continent. When this ceremony ends, you will officially be a graduate of the University of Pretoria, one of the best universities in South Africa and in Africa. Just a few weeks ago, UniRank, whose rankings include 13,000 universities in 200 countries, named this university as the second best in the country on the continent. Similarly, in other global ranking systems for 2021, the University of Pretoria has performed exceptionally well. When the global rankings for academic subjects were released in April this year, UP came out top in South Africa in computer science and engineering, finance and veterinary science, as well as joined first in biotechnology, economics, law, and energy science, and engineering, among others. Theology graduates, you have not been forgotten, who are first and foremost in the country in theology, divinity, and religious studies. That is, according to the QS World Rankings by subject. It is not just in specific disciplines that we stand tall. At the end of the day, it is what we do with our knowledge and experience that matters. When it comes to making a difference to pressing societal problems as embodied by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, this university is seen as an institution that is relevant, actively contributing and making an impact. It is a massive achievement that the University of Pretoria is among the top 100 universities in the world in terms of 3 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These are for quality education, which is SDG 4, industry, innovation and infrastructure, which is SDG 9, and peace, justice and strong institutions, which is SDG 16. There is much more to be done, and it is my fervent hope and the hope of the Vice Chancellor and Principal Professor Tawana Cooper that you will be part of the work that lies ahead. Our country faces a multiplicity of challenges that call for concerted collective effort involving each of us privileged enough to have had the benefit of university education, an excellent university education, I might add. The state of our economy is a major concern, Towards the end of August, Statistics South Africa released the employment statistics for the second quarter of 2021, showing the impact of COVID-19 on an already struggling economy. The official unemployment rate had risen to 34.4%, which is the highest it has been since the quarterly labor force survey commenced in 2008. Food insecurity and poverty are on the rise as well. Poverty crisis is especially dire among South African children who face what is known as multidimensional poverty. Stats SA says a child is multidimensionally poor when deprived of at least 3 of the 7 non-monetary dimensions of poverty, namely health, housing, nutrition, protection, education, information, water and sanitation. Closely linked to poverty and unemployment is the perennial problem of inequality, with South Africa, as you have surely heard, known as the most unequal society in the world. Iniquity and inequality have long been simmering and festering in our land. They have erupted to the forefront of our national awareness by the brutal awakening of COVID-19 pandemic. Why do I bring up these ills during such a joyful and momentous occasion as this, your graduation? I mention them because I'm convinced and confident that you have the ability to be part of the solution. The time has come to work together to solve what have become known as the wicked problems of the world. Problems that persist despite the application of humanity's best thinking. The problem with thinking is that we tend to keep on thinking and doing things the way we have always thought and done them. As Albert Einstein once famously said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We must rethink the way we think and act. If we do not like the results of the old ways of thinking, let us reimagine the results that we want to see and work towards them. This is precisely the thinking, or rather the rethinking of the University of Pretoria. For the past 18 months, since the pandemic threw the world into turmoil, we have been using the challenges it has presented to begin rethinking, reimagining and repositioning the role this university should be playing in society. In thinking and acting differently, we can achieve the transformation we all desire and co-create a future we all believe in. Think of Stevie the robot, who has joined the intensive care team at UP's Faculty of Health Sciences and Steve Biko's academic hospital to help improve the treatment of patients during the pandemic. Consider the recent discovery by a UP master's student of a group of 20 galaxies, opening up our understanding of how galaxy groups are assembled and evolve. Look at the journey that a consignment of 3D printed avocados have taken on a ship from South Africa to the Netherlands on a mission to determine the damage to fresh produce when transported from producers to supermarkets. Now, as you step into your own future, equipped with a qualification from one of the top universities in South Africa, I urge you to take this philosophy of rethinking, reimagining, and co-creating the future with you, wherever you go. In whatever position you find yourself, whether in formal employment or as head of your own company, there will be opportunities to make your piece of the world better for everyone. All of us, regardless of our profession, should be looking beyond the personal motivation to earn a very good living. We should be informed by another mission, a mission to contribute to poverty alleviation. For instance, the people who live in the village and towns we come from. We should constantly remind ourselves that whatever position I find myself in, I should be inspired to work for a bigger cause, a greater cause than my own pocket. Together with that, I appeal to you to take the values of Ubuntu with you so that you bring reason, empathy, logic, respect, and compassion in every interaction with everyone you engage, from those above and most importantly below you, in whatever hierarchy you encounter. always remember that your integrity is priceless. Essence of transformational leadership is to build trust, and to maintain that trust, never ever sacrifice your professional ethics and pride. Ladies and gentlemen, the University of Pretoria is deeply proud of what you have already achieved, and we look forward with anticipation and excitement to the achievements still to come. I now request the Dean to introduce to me the candidate for the honorary doctorate.
Mr. Chancellor, I have the honor to introduce to you Sheila Suzanne Nation for the conferment of the degree Doctor of Architecture, honoris causa, posthumously. In 1947, Sheila Suzanne Nation enrolled to study architecture at the newly opened School of Architecture at the University of Pretoria as one of the department's first female graduates. Since her graduation in 1957, Ms. Nation had been actively engaged in private architectural practice and architectural research, first at the National Building Research Institute and later at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. Sheila Nation has made an indelible contribution to the practice of architecture in South Africa, developing novel construction systems and brief development processes which have led to increased project efficiency, improving the design of affordable public sector educational facilities suitable for the local context, developing practices for community engagement, and recording the history of key figures in the South African architecture. As an alumna of the Department of Architecture, she continued her association with the department through serving as an external examiner, giving occasional lectures and involving students in her research projects at the CSIR. In this, she played an instrumental role in establishing a tradition of community engagement and participative design in the department. In 2013, Ms. Nation was declared a Friend of the Department. Ensuring the pursuit of awards, Ms. Nation's legacy is distinguished by her uncompromising pursuit of an egalitarian architecture that provides dignity to all members of society and the processes which will give communities a say in the creation of the built environment in which they live. She was also a pioneer in opening up a very male-dominated profession and industry to women, and will be celebrated for her tireless contribution to empowering female architects. Furthermore, she was part of a very rare breed, a South African architect with a distinguished career, not just in the profession, but also as a researcher. Mr. Chancellor, I request you to confer the honorary doctorate on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Engineering, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges on Ms. Nation.
Sheila Nation was nominated for this honorary doctorate in early 2020, but the graduation ceremony was postponed due to the onset of the coronavirus pandemic and the associated lockdown. She was editing this speech on the day that she was admitted to hospital after suffering a second stroke, from which she died 3 days later at the age of 91. We, as two of her grandchildren, thought it appropriate to read her words in memory of her amazing life and contributions to the field of architecture.
Professor Nkuhlu, Professor Kupe, Professor Maharaj, Deputy Deans, and all academic staff, parents, spouses, and guests. Most importantly, the graduates whose hard work we are celebrating today. I thank most sincerely Professors Maharaj and Duplessis, and those who have, to my surprise, honored me with this award in recognition of my work, which at the time simply seemed a wonderful way of being paid to do what I love doing and achieving a degree of success, as I hope today's graduates will.
It is a while since I arrived at UP in 1947. I wasn't exactly made welcome there. On our arrival, the irascible Cole Bowen introduced us by cutting us all down to size, eliminating our post-matric euphoria, telling us how hard we would have to work, he was right, and then turning on the 4 girls in a class of 36 and telling us that he guessed they were there for the ride, so sit down and shut up and don't expect any extra help from me. But 2 of the 4 took up the challenge and made it, together with a few of the lads. It hadn't occurred to me, still a wet behind-the-ears 16-year-old, that the prevailing patriarchal attitude might affect me, either in my studies or later as a working woman, or both. I found that out the hard way, repeatedly.
In those post-war days, with shortages of space everywhere, the school was housed in what was then the State Library on the corner of Vermeulen and Andries Streets. In retrospect, Pretoria University's architectural faculty, newly independent from Wits, was untrammeled by ingrained prejudice or established tradition. But probably the inevitable post-war feeling of sudden freedom, the promise of an end to shortages, and the development of industry contributed most of all towards the creation of an inventive and innovative school of architecture. Times have changed. I now draw on computer, although I still design using a soft pencil. But some things never change. Hard work always lies ahead of anyone in this field of study, as does the need to explore, to investigate, and to learn constantly. It demands flexibility, with new materials, methods, systems, and legislation changing constantly. Success relies on constant research, but also on imagination, seeing in your mind what will one day be realized.
There are rewards, especially the pleasure of this realization, or the solving of the multiple problems inherent in every project, or when clients show their appreciation and recommend you to others, or even become friends for life. There may be a lot of hard work ahead of you, but there will be a lot of joy too. That joy is not confined to your work, but also comes from family and friends. Don't feel that it is impossible to combine family and career, even if, like me, you have 4 lively sons. You will need their understanding and, at times, their help.
When a book entitled Problem Seeking came my way, it led to a major career change. Its premise is so obvious that it hardly seems worth dwelling on. Any problem can be solved if you know exactly what it is. Establishing a good brief lies at the heart of a successful project, and this depends on establishing an accurate set of problems for which solutions are to be provided. Briefing became one of my skills, and a really good brief leads to good results and usually a really good profit. In the course of this briefing, I developed a simple system to help clients to understand comparative sizes of different areas and their interrelationships, using adhesive stickers which I or they could manipulate. This very simple system proved invaluable and was applied in workshops for everyone from community leaders and top management down to members of the smallest projects and townships, where I was often consulted.
One of my dominant interests is the design of buildings for education. Working for the CSIR in the 50s, and resentful of always being used as a minimum standard due to my height, I was constructively motivated by Doug Calderwood to design schools for all sizes of children. Inevitably, this led to the design of buildings for education at all levels. And here, I throw down the gauntlet. Our schools are in disarray. You are needed. And that, thankfully, means all of you, for the prejudice against women in the different fields of building is disappearing. And you won't have to convince every second contractor that you are competent, as I did. I wish for each of you the most fulfilling of years ahead. The road may be bumpy at times, but the destination is worth the ride. I thank you.
I hereby confer and award all degrees and diplomas in absentia with associated rights and privileges to all candidates whose names appear in the graduation program.
School for the Built Environment. Doctor of Philosophy, Kundani Makakavule. Thesis: an exploration of the conflicts and contestations in the realization of a democratizing public space in the city of Tshwane. Supervisor, Professor K. Landman. Master of Science, Real Estate, Patricia Sikalo. Master of Town and Regional Planning, Litabo Chilwane, with distinction, Geletso Khodze. Master of Science, Applied Science, Architecture, Zakia Vauda. Real Estate, Fabio Nava, with distinction. Bachelor of Science Honours, Quantity Surveying, Sal Abdul. Vuiswa Koza. Real Estate, Daniel Smith. Bachelor of Science, Landscape Architecture, Christian Stebbing. Quantity Surveying, Stefan Visser. Real Estate, Mbalenhle Mtimkulu, Rico van der Merwe, Timothy Gillespie, Narshani Narayansamy. Bachelor of Town and Regional Planning, Victor Ramuki. School of Information Technology, Doctor of Philosophy, Information Systems, George Maramba. Thesis: towards a framework for implementing a computer-based knowledge management system in healthcare organizations. Supervisor, Professor J.L. Smuts. In Information Technology, Matsileng Lefike. Thesis: a systems framework for analyzing the impact of corporate social investment projects that focus on information technology. Supervisor, Professor S.M. Turpin. Master of Information Technology, Big Data Science, Andreas Bayer. Nkosana Guga. Rion Lawrence. Moses Lusinga. Apiwe Matubetube. Nishal Maharaj. Sireko Mangwali. Mantwampe Manyama. Gerard Mare. Kanyisa Nokanta. Liketso Ntimo. Pieter van der Walt. Johannes van Niekerk. Henry Wanderer. ICT Management, Brenda Nkomo, with distinction. Tafadzwa Nyahuye. Sandile Nzimande. Tebogo Ramatibela. Diane Dalyard. Keegan Thompson. Mukondereri Chisindi. Mulehe Wesi. Information Systems, Lungisa Doke, with distinction. Eugen Govender. Bachelor of Information Science Honours, Information Science. Itumeleng Matlowa. Manamanyane Peterson. Donnell van Wyk. Multimedia. Caleb Linden. Mzwandile Mahlangu. Bachelor of Information Technology Honours, Information Systems. Octavia Nyakeni, Moketoni Mukwebo. Bachelor of Science Honours, Computer Science, Stefan Duplessis, Tari Mota, Richard Moyo, Theoveshan Naidu, Stella Maris Njahe, Christopher Njaravani, John Ojo, Josephus van Wyk with distinction. Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, Abubakar Darki, Jared Gratz, Sisa Koza, Tlou Lebelo, Maluleki Nyuswa, Raisa Abu, Zachary Christophers, Quinn Dupisani, Lindo Mlambo, Alistair Payne, Alna Pistorius, Marlene Folyun. Bachelor of Science, Information Technology in Information and Knowledge Systems, Thiveshan Pillay. Bachelor of Information Science, Justin Boyson, Dikeledi Chilopo, Didintle Diakanyo, Jared Potgieter. Publishing, Karel Schut. Bachelor of Information Technology, Reinhard Klute. Graduate School of Technology Management, Doctor of Philosophy, Technology and Innovation Management, Jonathan Jacobs. A thesis, Strategic Management of Technology-Enabled Capabilities, a dynamic capabilities approach to strategically aligned value creation. Supervisor, Professor M. W. Pretorius. Master of Science, Engineering Management, Zain Abidin. Project Management, Jacob Kunene. Tiamo Moleme, Tichiawona Njanji, Ngimiso Nkungwana. Hamilton Piri, Refilwe Peter. Technology and Innovation Management, Sinentlantla Masondo, Metsa Monama. Master of Engineering, Engineering Management, Sandile Madonsela, Ntabiseng Mamabolo, Trevesh Mudli, Ashrin Sankar Jawahir. Project Management, Christian de Koenen, Makosonke Mnisi, Sesi Mukheti, Nyelisani Mufamadi. Technology and Innovation Management, Marvik Janse van Rensberg, Liesel Steinberg. Bachelor of Engineering Honours, Engineering and Technology Management, Lucinda Arlo with distinction, Tato Boateng, Riabetsui Kodisang, Paulina Liballo, Halalelo Mutlana, Masinwe Takalo, Kialebuha Tsetlanyane, Schaba Tsubela. Bachelor of Science Honours, Engineering and Technology Management, Sianokeng Ditlobolo, Nechedzo Mahata, Khodani Mandiwana, Khatani Masemula, Tintswalo Masungini, Thomas Matthew with distinction, Bafana Mkwanazi, Joseph Mohane, Kibebe Muilwa, Siphokazi Mqhushekile, Avela Mthembu, Aphiwe Ngoqo, Maropeng Ramohlale, Chifiwa Ravele, Ndibuo Chifura, Alda Zeko. In technology management, Domgaise Jonah.
Let us give our graduates a big hand for their hard work and perseverance. I would like to thank the families, friends, and spouses for supporting our graduates during their studies. We have now come to the end of the proceedings. Please join us in singing the national anthem. By the power vested in me as Chancellor, I hereby dissolve this Assembly of the University of Pretoria.
Gaudiamus igitur juvenestum sumus. Gaudiamus igitur juvenestum sumus. Post jucundam juventutem, post molestam senectutem, nos habet